Well, a beautiful, beautiful Thursday morning. How the week is moving pretty fast. I hope that you are well. Thank you so much for keeping it TV 47, the home of untold stories. Arise and shine. We have so much lined up for you this beautiful morning on Morning Cafe, and I hope that you will be part and parcel of this very conversation. Remember, it is that day where we take a look at what is happening in the world of news. Definitely the state of the nation, what has played out for the better part of the weekend coming to this moment, as well as we get into that mood of ushering in the weekend. Yes, it is almost here. You'll be surprised why I'm saying this is because now tomorrow will be a Friday, a feel-good Friday. It will be all about entertainment. So this is perhaps the last formal day of the week. So as we do this, we hope that you would be with us all the way to 9:30 as we take a look at what is happening here. There's so much to look at. The Yala conversation, as we delve deep into understanding just what is the relationship of Kenya and the world at large, the relationship of Kenya and the African continent. Definitely would be looking at, the traversing of President Uhuru Kenyatta, or former president, that is President Uhuru Kenyatta, as he traverses different parts of the continent, just so we would speak the aspect of peace and the aspect of African integration. And most importantly, the Yala conversation is here. The voting process then takes a center stage today, and we get to understand and know who are the faces that will represent us at this legislative seat that is at the East African aspect. So karibu sana, and as always, the hashtag is Morning Cafe at Linda_Lela, TV47KE. Later on, we'll be hitting the gym. That is on Fitness Thursday. Let's first of all look at the papers, what the Daily Nation has to say, as well as the Standard newspaper and the People Daily, before we briefly cross over to look at what it is that my team has prepared. The front page of the Daily Nation, if we could have that up, we speak of, just reminding us of what the promises of the Jubilee governments were, and especially the main one that actually they got to the campaign mode with, promising us that there were going to be laptops for our children. 10 years later, the digital promise remains a dream for these very children. It has been more of a scandal from this revelation and report that has been captured on page 7 of the Daily Nation. Ahead of the 2013 general election, then Jubilee Party candidates Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto promised to give each child who enrolled in school a laptop. On paper, it is a well-laid out initiative to turn children into digital citizens. But on the ground, things are totally different. And sometimes people have asked to get to understand whether indeed the Ruto presidency would deliver anything if this of the easiest, perhaps, based on how they sold it, they were not able to manage it. 1.2 million devices delivered. 1.2 million, that is 200 assembled at Moi and JKUAT. But did they just get to the destination? Those are the questions that we're asking, or the Daily Nation is asking, as they take stock. Pioneer targeted class completing Form 1 and installed schools. We're talking about 22,891 digital content available. That is grade 1 to 4, 5 subjects only. Challenges: content, teacher capacity, storage of gadgets, no power in a few schools, and also primary schools. Approximately enrollment was about 9.6 million. Just what really was the biggest problem as to achieving this, and what would be the biggest problem as to achieving the promises that have been accorded to us by the UDA, or the Kenya Kwanza government? That is the big story on the Daily Nation. And also the question of Yala. Is it a fix? Ruto sets trap for Raila and Kalonzo, that is in Yala seats race ahead of today's vote for members of the East African Legislative Assembly. President William Ruto's Kenya Kwanza is waiting in the wings to reap from a potential fallout, that is in Azimio, where the nomination of daughter and son of party leaders Raila Odinga as well as Kalonzo Musyoka respectively is causing unease, as captured on page 4 and 5. All Kenyans that are capable will be following up to see how how the vote will turn out and who then will be the individuals that will be favored to represent us at Yala. And on the special report as to the question of insecurity or security, depending on how you look at it, special police units return in crackdown on gangs. And this is a suggestion or perhaps a question as to whether this is what is going to solve the cases of insecurity that have lately been reported, especially in the city. New specialized police units are set for a comeback as the government moves to contain soaring crime in Nairobi, where armed gangs and pickpockets had turned certain parts into no-go zones. A story captured on page 5. And we'll be looking at that as also part and parcel of the main stories that are making center stage, and that would be cause for alarm and cause for concern. Tragedy: 6 rescued, 3 die after a building collapses. Remember, this is perhaps just 2 weeks after another one also collapsed somewhere in Embakasi, and the 2 men and women didn't have to die. Well, this is according to the National Construction Authority, or better yet, the National Construction Authority had closed the site only a day to the tragic incident, but the contractor continued building, the height of impunity. A story captured on page 10. And these numerous buildings that continue to be erected in the city and in the country, and of course not following the right guidelines. On the Standard newspaper front page, petition to remove Chebukati never reached the speaker. Interesting. Or and also a conversation as to the Cherera 4. A story captured on page 6 and page 7 is a conversation that has been on, and we continue to have this very conversation as they also get to await their fate. Turkana oil sold for about 426 million. That is on the business page. But just what is this black gold doing to the people of Turkana and generally the people of Kenya upon that very important discovery? And of course, on this other side, members of parliament set stage for big clash with CJ Koome. Well, all eyes are on the Attorney General, and yes, on the Attorney General Justin Muturi, after the Treasury said it was ready to begin disbursing about 2 billion NGCDF cash weekly, subject to legal advice. Now, how the Attorney General decides could trigger the first major clash with the Supreme Court, and which ruled that the fund is unconstitutional. A story captured on page 4. We'll definitely be having this conversation, but members of parliament have sworn that they will push to make sure that it is on. On the other side, Bill Gates' mission in Kenya, this as he meets President William Ruto, and of course the conversation has been on as to what good is he brings here. That is on his mission. We understand that is amongst the world's richest men, and therefore his contribution to society has really been appreciated, and this not just where it is that he hails from, but across the global fraternity. Those are the key stories that have been captured on the front page of the Daily Nation and the Standard newspaper. We briefly take a look at what the People Daily has to say. If we could have that up, Mr. Director. Yes, the People Daily on this very 17th day of November 2022. Who will be going to Yala? That is the biggest question that is being asked, and that is captured on the front page, expounded on page 2 of the People Daily. Intrigues galore as legislators now vote, or they vote today, on nominees to represent Kenya in regional parliament. That is a very, very crucial conversation, and of course that list of the Kenya Kwanza team also being presented, or better yet, the UDA list that was presented by the president, and as well we'll be looking to see what the other parties will be presenting and just how lucky these lobbying processes have been for the individuals that would love to represent the country at the regional level. And teachers unions, a big fight over junior high, and that is not once grade 7 to 9 to be in primary, as Kupet says no secondary is best. And this also is one of the stories that finds itself on the other papers as well, as we await to see just how well we're able to roll it out on the question of the competency-based curriculum, even as the team that was scheduled, or the team that was set to, as well, conduct a research on this and get to understand the views of the people is still ongoing with its work. Row rocks the house of CDF, or over CDF billions, and we're talking about 44 billion amount members of parliament want the National Treasury to release before they approve supplementary budget. And so it's a show us the money. The members of parliament want Komen Ndung'u to be summoned over delays in releasing this very cash, that is for constituencies, and ruling that declared the fund unconstitutional, or they won't pass supplementary budget. A story captured on page 4. And so we get to see whether this arm twist will get them having what it is that they seek, as we have this very conversation as to whether indeed the NGCDF is really crucial, and whether then it does so much to help the people of the various constituencies represented by these members of parliament. GSU special units to take on criminals. Well, that's an interesting one, as police adapt new strategy in the war on the crime as Ruto hosts top security chiefs, and we'll be following up to see to it whether then this will indeed be a success. Those are the key stories as to the papers this morning. Allow us to briefly shift gears and take a look at what has been prepared by my team. And the public participation drive that is on the Hustler Fund continues to take shape, that is across the country, with a team touring the coastal region. That is yesterday in Mombasa County, and Muslim religious leaders have proposed that the government considers their religions and their views that prohibit loans with interest when disbursing the funds. Paul Muniu with the very same story.
Kenya Kwanza Hustler Funds plan has today conducted a public participation in Mombasa County, where the general public presented their views over the project set to be launched next month. The government is focused to make reforms in financial lending and benefit the low-income mwananchi, who will now be able to borrow between 550,000 Kenyan shillings to boost their economic activities.
Maoni yetu ambayo tumeleta leo yatiliwe mkazo. Nasikitika kusema ya kuwa kumekuwa na pesa za Women Enterprise Fund, kumekuwa na pesa ya Youth Fund, lakini ukija mashinani watu bado maskini. Je, kutakuwa na tofauti gani na hii Hustler Fund? Lazima waanze kisawa, wahakikishe ya kuwa pia wametuambia hustler ni nani.
Tukishapata kujua hayo, tutakwenda mbele na kujua kwamba ni mikakati gani itatumiwa kuhakikisha kwamba wale mahasla wamepata access. Watapata access kwenda kama kibinafsi, ama watapata access watakwenda kama vikundi.
At the same time, Muslim religious leaders have persuaded the government to consider the Muslim community in the theory of loan interest, citing that their religious beliefs do not allow them to pay loan interest.
Waislamu wapewe loan kupitia Islamic models, na wasomi tunao ambao wanajua mambo ya banking ya katika Uislamu. Kwa hivyo hatutaki tuachwe nje kwa hoja ya interest.
A state of commotion, however, rose among the invited public who had come all the way from Tana River County to table their views on the funds. The group complained of neglect as they were left stranded without accommodation fee nor fare.
Tumekodisha magari za wenyewe. We are stranded. Where is the hustler? Ambaye na sisi ndio tumpigia kiti. Nataka haone ya kwamba vile tumeanza kuteseka na Hustler Fund na bado haijakuwa established.
Ile chakula tumepewa kweli, nafikiri ndio hiyo inaitwa hustler. Maana haswa tumbo la njaa, na sijui mimi nitarudi vipi. Kuulizana wenye wamefacilitate program wameniambia mimi shauri yangu ni voluntary.
As this was happening, President William Ruto, during a meeting with UDA parliamentarians in State House in Nairobi, mentioned that the funds will be made available through partnering with communication service providers to ensure no one is left behind.
I know many of you may ask what happens to ordinary people and the others. I want to tell you, Mama Mboga is ahead of us. Mama Mboga already operate hapo kwa M-Pesa.
Paul Muniu, TV 47, Mombasa.
Sorry.
Thank you, Paul, for that. Now, chiefs in Narok County are now being accused of excessive drinking, with the government sending a strong warning to them. And in Murang'a County, the water and sanitation company in the county continues to count losses over theft and vandalism of its equipment. Collins Lusweti looks at the stories from the counties.
Chiefs in Narok County have been warned against consuming excessive alcoholic drinks. County Commissioner Isaac Masinde says he has received reports that a number of chiefs in the area have been indulging in illicit alcohol, making them unable to perform their duties effectively. He warned that the government will not hesitate to sack the officers. The area has seen an upsurge of unlicensed clubs as well as illicit brews.
I have noted kuna baadhi yetu wachache ambao wanakunywa pombe kabisa. Asubuhi mtu bado ananuka pombe. Sometimes hata mkutana huko hawezi kujitokeza, unaambiwa na raia ndio ni chief yake. Because anajua hata mdomo inanuka pombe.
Also in Embu County, national government administrative officers in Nambura Division have destroyed and burned several structures in Karingari Market that have allegedly been used to hide drugs and stolen goods. Led by Nambura Assistant County Commissioner Abubakar Noor, the officers revealed that they have been receiving complaints on drug trafficking and theft cases, with the crackdown expected to extend to other markets in the area.
Tulipata malalamishi mingi sana kwa wananchi wetu wa hapa wakisema ya kwamba kuna watu wanauza bangi katika hizi vibanda, wanazitumia hizi vibanda kama pia mahali ya kuweka vitu ya wizi, na ndio maana tumejitolea ofisi ya Assistant County Commissioner Nambure pamoja na chiefs wa Gaturi South, all of them are with me here, tukasema tubomoe na tukaweza kuzibomoa na tukazichoma.
And elsewhere, members of parliament from Makueni County are now warning that students from humble backgrounds in the region may fail to continue with their studies if constituency development funds are not disbursed. Led by Kaiti Member of Parliament Joshua Kimilu, the legislators say thousands of children have benefited from the funds.
Jaribu kuzunguka katika eneo langu la Kaiti na kuna jambo moja limetambua. Tukiendelea vile tunaendelea, watoto wengi January hawatarudi mashule. Kama saa hii watu wale wali apply bursary mwezi wa 6 walikuwa 20,000 wale ambao wanategemea bursaries. Saa hii tunaongea kuna wale ambao hata hii muhula hawakurudi shule kwa sababu ya ukosefu ya fedha.
Meanwhile, Murang'a Water and Sanitation Company Muasco is now counting losses amounting to millions of shillings following vandalism and theft of pipes and other water supply equipment. The manager of the company, Daniel Mnganga, says theft has increased in the last 2 months, disrupting water supply in most parts in the area.
For the last 2.5 months, we have lost meters and fittings for the water, electrification, which I would estimate would cost more than 1 million shillings.
In Meru County, Alliance Organization has initiated a program that aims at raising awareness on non-communicable diseases. The organization that aims at fighting the diseases is targeting diabetes and high blood pressure patients with information on how to manage the diseases. The organization says Meru County and Mount Kenya at large has recorded the highest number of cases of non-communicable diseases in the country.
One of the key things about non-communicable diseases, these are lifelong conditions. If you have diabetes, you'll have diabetes for life. So essentially, you need to learn how to manage your condition. Yes, you will need to go to the hospital on a regular basis to collect your medicines, to be reviewed by the healthcare provider, but you also need to learn how you can manage.
Now, the bodies of Paris Wanjiku and her 13-year-old boy have finally been buried in Kiandai village, India, in Kirinyaga County. Now, the two were mysteriously killed by Jeremiah Muriuki, a 42-year-old man who was the husband to Wanjiku and later committed suicide after killing the two on the 3rd of November this year. The story was produced by Andrew Juma.
Grief engulfed Kiandai village in India, Kirinyaga County, as 3 members of one family were being buried. The victims, Paris Wanjiku and her 13-year-old son, who was in class 7 at Kiandagai Primary School, were allegedly killed on the same day by her husband, Jeremiah Muriuki, a 42-year-old man who later died by suicide on 3rd November 2022. Tears flowed as the caskets carrying the remains of the victims were lowered to their graves at Kiandai village as residents condemned the fatal attack.
Wanaume tafadhali, wacheni kuua watoto. Kama ni mapenzi mungepeleka. Naye kina mama, tukienda kwa kanisa, tuamini hata Bwana akienda, usiende kulipisa kisasi ati ametembea. Hata wakati yetu, hata wakati wa mama yetu, kulikuwa maneno kama hiyo. Kwa hivyo, wale ambao nitaambia mama wadogo, kama Bwana ametembea wachana na yeye. Naye Bwana ukienda, kuna wanaume wanaoa mabibi hata 20. Wacha kwenda kwa Bwana, kwa bibi ya mtu. Tafuta wanawake wale ambao hawana mabwana.
The burial service was conducted at ACK Kiandagai Church by Reverend Michael Githinji, who emphasized on families understanding each other in marriage.
Pengine ni kutokuwa waaminifu katika mboma. Unajua mtu anakona mke na bado akona mpango wa kando mahali pale na pale.
According to relatives, before Morioki allegedly killed members of his family and then died by suicide, he had earlier been involved in an extramarital affair with his neighbor's wife. Reverend Githinji urged the government to ensure that there are counseling centers in Kirinyaga to avoid domestic violence cases. The body of Morioki was found dangling from a tree on 3rd November 2022 at a neighbor's farm, while those of his wife and son, Jackson Kinywa, were found in their house lying in a pool of blood.
Na kama watu wamekosa kusikizana, ni vyema mtu aende kivyake, aachie mwingine na uhai wake, kwa sababu ni muhimu, uhai ni muhimu sana.
Police recovered an axe that is suspected to be the murder weapon that Morioki allegedly used to kill his family.
And as the country continues to record a surge in insecurity incidences witnessed in different counties, there are fears that some innocent Kenyans, especially Boda Boda operators, could be targeted, arrested or murdered without committing any offense. And as Elizabeth Atieno now reports, a family in Thika is demanding justice after their 22-year-old relative was allegedly shot dead by police officers on Tuesday night.
A section of residents from Thika town gathered in this particular area in deep thoughts after the mysterious death of 22-year-old George Kimani, who was allegedly shot by police officers while on his way home on Tuesday night. The late Kimani, who was in the company of 2 other individuals on a motorbike, were allegedly on their way home from work when they were ambushed by police officers who wanted to arrest them.
Tulikuja hapa kit 6 to 7 ndio tulikuwa kwa hii area, hata 7 hiko imefika. Tukakaa akakuja kuwa amenibemba, hiyo dudhiri ilikuwa yangu. Jamaa kule alikuwa ametubemba, akaniweka pale, akakuja hapa mbele. Sasa wakanigojea tu hapa mbele niongee na huyo madam tulikuwa na yeye. Then nikuje hivi. Sasa emergency askari wakakuja bio na hiyo Land Rover wakampata hapo. Wakati walimpata alijaribu kujisaidia venye atatoroka, lakini mwenye alikuwa ngaya alianguka chini. Wakati alijaribu kutoroka wakamfyatua risasi hapa. Hakuweza kutoroka, alianguka na pikipiki. Akamgonga hizo risasi.
One of the 2 other occupants was arrested as the other one escaped arrest.
Sasa hapo nikaanza kuchukua simu, nikaanza kutafuta credit kupigia watu wenye watanisaidia. Sasa kupigia hao, sasa ndio nipiga simu nyumbani, nikaambia auntie na yeye auntie akaambia mama na akaambia mama ya hiyo Blue George. Alikuwa ameagusa pikipiki. Sasa alikuwa ameachana na pikipiki, anakuja kusaidia yenye askari wako. Sasa hiyo process wakati anakuja penye askari wako ndio walimsutu akamwangusha. Na walikuwa na uwezo wa kumsika juu walikuwa tu karibu. Hakuwa amefikisha mita 3 ama mita 5. Walikuwa karibu kumsika, lakini baada ya kumsika walimpiga tu risasi.
Nilipiga simu huko town, niliambia kuwa kijana yangu amepigwa risasi. Na wakati nilisikia hivyo, nikatuma msichana wangu ambaye anaishi huko kwenda kuconfirm. Waliambiwa kwamba huyo kijana mmoja ameshikwa, lakini huyo mwingine amefanya nini? Amefanya kutoroka, lakini amepigwa risasi. Afterwards ndio wanasema kwamba ati kijana wako aliambiwa simu alafu akatoroka.
The incident was Thika Deputy Commander, who now states that they were able to collect weapons and cell phones from the suspect.
Walikuwa wameimba simu 4 Mmoja alikuwa kuja pia kukata askari, tukaweza pia kukabiliana nao vilivyo. Mmoja ako hospitali, mmoja ule alikuwa na pikipiki aliweza kutoroka, na mmoja pia hakuweza kufika hospitali, akawa ameaga njiani.
Where should we go? So mtu akisimama shwali hapa unaambiwa wewe ni mwizi. Mimi nikipata huyu inspector hapa, I just need justice for my brother, because it's so painful to lose a brother.
Sasa nataka haki ichukuliwe, itendeke kwa huyo mtoto wangu kwa sababu alipigwa risasi bila hatia.
A section of border operators in Thika Town have since condemned the attack, saying they are wrongfully and unfairly arrested and then murdered.
Hii jambo ambalo watu wa pikipiki imesemekana ya kwamba akipatikana mahali anaonekana kana kwamba ni mwizi, tafadhali mimi naambia hawa askari wakuwe makini sana na wafanye kazi kulingana na ile train ambao wametrainiwa.
This incident comes just a day after Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki promised that the government will ruthlessly deal with Kenyans posing a serious threat to national security. Elizabeth Atieno, TV 47.
Now, days after a Kuria Member of Parliament, that is Marwa Kiyatama, proposed a bill seeking to amend Article 98 of the Constitution to add 5 more counties in the country. The move has attracted other suggestions from other leaders who now want their respective communities and constituents given their own constituencies or counties.
In what can be seen as an adoption of a Me Too movement, leaders from various parts of the country have come out to support proposals for new counties that should be carved out of the existing 47 counties. Leaders from Garissa County, led by Ijara Member of Parliament Abdi Ali Abdi and ODM-nominated Member of Parliament Umi Harun, now want Ijara to be a county of its own, saying that it has enough resources to run as a county. Opinion leaders and professionals from the Kuria community have also come out to back the proposal by their MP, terming it as a solution to alleged constant discrimination by the Migori County government, as well as an opportunity for them to manage their own resources.
The creation of the current 47 counties was not based on any scientific findings or data, but mere political machinations laced with tribal compromise.
Sisi wa mama tumeangalia sana, tukiona kilimo ambacho tunayofanya kutoka Timaru huko juu mpaka hapa Keanja, tukienda Kuria nzima, unapata kwamba kilimo kimefanywa kweli na imetendeka. Sisi wenyewe tu ndio tunalisha Migori. Kwa nini hiyo sesa ambayo inakatwa sisi tusipewe hapa hivi ili tuweze kujenga Kuria yetu? Tungekuwa na kaunti yetu, tungekuwa mbali kabisa.
Meanwhile, in Kisii County, Bomachoge Chache legislator Alpha Miruka has also suggested the formation of Gucha County, carved from the existing Kisii County. The proposal by Kuria Member of Parliament Marwa Kiyatama has already been supported by 50 legislators, making it eligible for a debate in Parliament, where it will have to sail through by having the support of 2/3 of members before it is moved to the Senate for concurrence. Once it is passed by both houses, the bill will also be sent to county assemblies to receive a nod of at least 24 counties before it is then passed on to voters through a referendum. Sylvia Nyongesa, TV 47.
And the 4 IEBC commissioners who differed with Chair Wafula Chebukati will now know their fate after a parliament motion to oust them will be forwarded to the head of state. And as Mike Agungo reports, the simple majority number of members of parliament will be required to move the petition to the president, whom shall, upon receiving the petition from the parliament, will either suspend the commissioners or appoint a tribunal that will probe them adequately.
The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission IEBC Commissioners Vice Chairperson Juliana Cherera, Francis Wanderi, Justus Nyangaya and Irene Cherono Masit drew the country's attention when they rejected the presidential election results. The four staged a walk out from the National Tallying Center, Bomas of Kenya, minutes before IEBC Chair Wafula Chebukati announced the presidential results. National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula confirmed on Tuesday that a Kenya Kwanza affiliated party, the Republican Party, individuals Reverend Dennis Ndwiga Dhombe, Geoffrey Langat and War Steve Gary have since filed a petition in Parliament to execute the commissioner's ouster plan. The four accused the embattled commissioners of allegedly violating the Constitution, gross misconduct and incompetence. The petitioners want the four to be removed from the office in accordance with Article 251 and 88 on grounds of serious violation of the Constitution.
The process is as per the law, but because that's a matter within the purview of JLAC, we shall be able to, number one, write to all those commissioners, give them an opportunity to write, to make their presentation, either in writing or and they come and present it themselves. We shall also make sure that we give all the members of public an opportunity to come and bring any other evidence against those commissioners.
According to Article 251 of the Constitution, a member of commission, other than an ex-official member or the holder of an independent office, may be removed from the office only for a serious violation of the Constitution or any other law, including a contravention of Chapter 6. Gross misconduct, whether in the performance of the members or office holders' functions, or otherwise physical or mental incapacity to perform the functions of office, incompetence or bankruptcy. The process of the removal of the commissioner starts the moment the petition has been received by the National Assembly clerk and stamped as received by the Assembly's main records unit. The next step will be for a motion to be mentioned and debated before the National Assembly.
It's very possible to kick them out. It depends on the weight of the petition which is going to be presented before Parliament. And for Parliament to actually be able to push it forward or to give a green light for it to be sent to the President, Parliament must be convinced they must be convinced that indeed there is weighty grounds, or there is indeed enough evidence which is worth sending this to the President to form a tribunal to investigate these people over.
During the determination of the petition, the simple majority number of MPs is required to move the petition to the President. Upon receiving the petition from the Parliament, the President will either suspend the commissioners or appoint a tribunal that will probe them.
We shall afford each and all the commissioners an opportunity to be heard. They can come on they can send a petition, they can send a response, they can come with a lawyer, and they can be able to present. They can make sure that all what they have is presented before the committee before a decision has been made.
The tribunal shall investigate the matter expeditiously, report the facts, and make a binding recommendation to the President, who shall act in accordance with the recommendation within 30 days. However, if the commissioners are removed from the office in accordance with the tribunal's recommendations, they will still be entitled to continue to receive 1/2 of the remuneration and benefits of the office while suspended. The President shall thereafter publish a notice of a vacancy in the Gazette within 7 days of suspension. Mike Kagwongo, TV 47, Nairobi.
And Kenya Kwanza has endorsed 5 members who are expected to be voted today to represent Kenya at the East African Legislative Assembly. On the other hand, the Azimio coalition is said to have settled on Raila Odinga's daughter Winnie Odinga and Kalonzo Musyoka's son as their first choices as negotiations go on over the lineup.
Today's Kenya Kwanza parliamentary meeting in State House, Nairobi, settled on their lineup of members who will be voted for tomorrow to represent the country at the East African Legislative Assembly. The Kenya Kwanza lineup includes Hassan Omar, Zipporah Kering, David Ole Sankok, Fred Muteti, and Falhada Deko. The members were settled on after clusters of 3 were grouped to facilitate smooth lobbying in Parliament. This also culminating to vote in State House from each cluster, which settled on the 5.
That woman who's going to be
voted to Yala. And of course, as you know, people say mothers, women normally love peace and, the cohesion. I urge and pledge with both parties, Kenya Kwanza and Azimio, to vote for me and give me that chance that I can do it.
I am asking my brothers and sisters from the other coalition to consider Zipporah Kering and give me all their votes so that I can fly the flag of Kenya into the East African community, and I won't be a letdown. I will work to the best interest of all the Kenyans.
But the endorsement of the 5 didn't sit pretty with the section of members of parliament from Mount Kenya region who accused their colleagues of giving them a raw deal, with mamas within the coalition suggesting that the voting pattern could change tomorrow due to the complaints.
Therefore, there are those who feel that some interests we are never captured, and that's why you reason that actually there are some still murmuring. And I still think that if that murmur is not sorted, you also can most likely bring some hitches tomorrow.
Mambo wa chama ya UDA, lakini pia kubalia kwamba kuna demokrasia, na kama kuna demokrasia kuna watu ambao pia wanaenda chaguana na matokeo hayakuwapendeza. Uwezi wazuia wasiongee na wale wengine. Kwa hivyo hiyo ni jukumu yao, hiyo ni nafasi yao, hiyo ni demokrasia. Waongee na watu waone kama kuna jambo lolote ambalo laweza fanyika.
However, the matrix on Azimio Brigade is not so smooth, with coalition said to have agreed to give priority to Azimio party leader Raila Odinga's daughter Winnie Odinga and Wiper Party's Kalonzo Musyoka's son Kennedy Musyoka.
I know that many of us have so far pitched or are pushing for Winnie Odinga and Kennedy Musyoka to be at least number 1 and number 2 from our side. But it is not communicated officially. Many of us feel that those two we should not compromise on. But the other 2 slots in the Azimio, any other member can win.
The battle within the Jubilee Party for the Yala slot is between the party Secretary General Jeremiah Kioni, former Kieni lawmaker Kanini Kega, and former Wajir woman representative Fatuma Gedi, the trio unable to lock the grid on who is suitable from the party.
There's a possibility that the votes may favor 1 ODM, 2 Jubilee, and 1 Wiper, 1 ODM, 2 Wiper, 1 Jubilee, 3 ODM, but that would bring some friction in the coalition. I would pray that when it comes to voting, we do it in a way that ODM will get their 2 slots as had been discussed and agreed by our leaders, and then Jubilee gets their 1, and then Wiper gets 1.
Other strong candidates are Mombasa businessman and close ally of Raila Odinga, Suleiman Shabal, and former Shinyalu MP Justus Kizito, either of them expected to take up one of the 4 positions slated for Azimio coalition. After weeks of intense lobbying and discussions, now the D-Day is here with 416 members of parliament expected to pick out of 27 non-suitable members who will represent them in the East African Legislative Assembly. Elizabeth Mutuko, TV47 Pan Biddings, Nairobi.
Thank you, Liz, for the updates. There now a day after the High Court of Kenya suspended the vetting process of the principal secretaries by the National Assembly. A section of legislators has slammed the courts, saying it is a move to derail delivery of service. The Employment and Labour Relations Court stopped the vetting pending the hearing and determination of a case filed by the Law Society of Kenya, as Flora Lemuki details.
National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula has suspended the ongoing vetting of President William Ruto's principal secretary nominees. The vetting of persons nominated to serve as PSs commenced on November 14th in the various departmental committees of the House. In a letter to chairpersons of departmental committees and persons nominated as PSs, Wetangula said the exercise has been suspended until further notice.
Now we were waiting for the PSs to complete that structure of the executive.
This comes a day after the High Court of Kenya stopped the process pending the determination of a case filed by the Law Society of Kenya. Early on, LSK had petitioned the removal of Chief Administrative Secretary's position, citing that it will financially stretch the already crippling economy.
And we are still holding those who are in transition in the same offices when the current regime has already decided to keep them off and replace them.
Within the ministry, they cannot take off if you don't have because they are the accounting officers at the ministry. So it means that there are certain duties that cannot be executed.
The suspension of the exercise has elicited reactions from legislators who termed this as a war against the new administration, claiming that it is a move to delay President William Ruto's timelines to deliver to Kenyans.
Walisimamisha mapema kwa sababu wangegojea maamuzi ya kamiti, wangegojea maamuzi ya parliament.
The LSK says in the petition that the list of 51 PSs presented to Parliament for vetting and approval does not depict the national representation, including the youth, persons with disabilities, the marginalized, and gender balance. Flora Limuki, TV47.
Now, President William Ruto has put a brake on a proposal to make amendments to the Constitution and allow him rule until the age of 75. And as Paul Kirobi reports, the President urged members of Parliament to utilize their time on the floor of the House by passing agenda that will favor their political affiliations, plus the agenda of the common mwananchi.
On Tuesday morning, a number of MPs allied to Kenya Kwanza attended a President William Ruto-chaired parliamentary group meeting held at State House, the key of the meeting being to set the House in order, top on the agenda being how the MPs will execute their mandate for the period William Ruto will be serving as the president. The president also delved in the term limits debate, asking legislators to ignore the talk.
I will not participate in mutilating the Constitution for purposes of serving selfish, personal, parochial interests.
Instead, the president urged the Kenya Kwanza legislators to utilize the opportunity on the floor of the House to push the Kenya Kwanza agenda, at the same time serving their constituents as promised.
Don't wait until it's too late. Or you can wake up one morning and it is 5 years and you have not even cleared your throat in Parliament. Bado hujasema anything. So let us, I want to encourage every member of Parliament. The most important aspect of a member of Parliament is to speak on all the issues, legislation, to ensure that there is oversight and to represent your people.
President Ruto's message comes at the backdrop of an intense conversation on the proposal to change the constitution and scrap off the presidential two-term limit, a proposal that attracted backlash from a section of UDA allied MPs and their counterparts from Azimio la Umoja. Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua informed members of Parliament that such meetings will often be called to iron out issues of interest on specific times.
The governance model for the Ruto administration will be continuous engagement all the time. At all times, the president will engage you, and as we look at the events ahead, he decided that you come and he engages you and you engage him.
Fafi MP Salah Jacob had proposed a plan to scrap the two-term presidential term limit and cap the age for contesting for the same seat at 75.
Now, trouble is brewing in the ruling Kenya Kwanza alliance after a section of the coalition's first-time members of parliament protested against National Assembly Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah, accusing him of high-handedness and arrogance. The protest, which began after the allocation of House Committee's leadership slots, has attracted the attention of the President, that is President William Ruto, who prevailed upon first-time members of Parliament to be patient and learn the ropes from old members serving the second and third terms.
A Kenya Kwanza parliamentary group meeting at State House gave President William Ruto the perfect chance to tame disquiet in the alliance when he prevailed upon his restless first-time MPs, unhappy with the just concluded allocation of leadership slots in the National Assembly and the Senate. The first-time MPs have trained their guns on Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah over his leadership style. The new MPs from the Rift Valley, specifically Bomet and Nandi counties, and another section from the Mount Kenya region, allege Ichung'wah is high-handed and arrogant.
What the President was advising the first-time members of Parliament is to allow and accept to be nurtured. If you don't allow and accept to be nurtured, then we'll have most of the first-time members of Parliament going home as just first-time members of Parliament. That is good. Allow yourself to be nurtured, learn, so that tomorrow when you will be a second-termer, you will be the one who will be given that responsibility now of nurturing the new bonds who will be coming.
Divisions have since emerged, with old MPs throwing their support behind Ichung'wah's leadership. This ahead of a protest Kamukunji, organized by the dissenting MPs from the Rift Valley on Monday next week. A section of the Rift Valley MPs are also aggrieved by the party leadership failure to cede one of the two slots awarded to the Mount Kenya region in the Parliamentary Service Commission to Nandi Senator Samson Cherargei. Sources say former Governor and Uasin Gishu Senator Jackson Mandago is leading the dissenting camp in the Senate. The clamor for House committees and to avert a fallout, especially in Kenya Kwanza, forced the House leadership to change the standing orders and increase the number of committees to accommodate more MPs while reducing the committee membership.
If any mono, let me use that name, was successfully gotten a space to serve as a chair or a deputy chair, consider himself lucky, because this parliament is one of the parliaments which has brought back over 50% of those members who were in the previous house. That tells you what? It tells you that those old timers could easily sail and take over everything.
In Kwanza, 155 members wanted to be in the budget committee, which only has 13 slots. Despite being prevailed upon during the State House parliamentary group meeting, a section of the first-time MPs have vowed to push on with their protest, with a Kamukunji meeting slated for Monday next week. Apul Kamau, TV47, Parliament.
All right, now President William Ruto, while in a meeting with police commanders, has told police officers not to hesitate to use firearms, even as the state launched a crackdown on criminals in a bid to deal with a surge of insecurities among major cities across the country. And at the same time, a court has granted detectives 14 days to hold 4 suspects linked to the murder of 24-year-old Kegan Githua earlier this month in a robbery that turned fatal. Moige William with that.
Tonight, President William Ruto might find himself in the crosshairs of human rights bodies in the wake of a sustained war against suspected criminals wreaking havoc in the capital and beyond. In the meeting with regional police commanders, the head of state did not hesitate to ask law enforcement officials to use their firearms to stop the criminals.
If any officer is in danger of criminals, they must use their firearms to deal with the criminals.
In the recent times, crime at the capital has been at an all-time high, said to be perpetuated by crude weapon-wielding gangs causing fear and panic among city residents. At the moment, specialized police units are set to begin patrols at the capital to deal with criminals. This is after Cabinet on Tuesday okayed the deployment of the General Service Unit and the Rapid Deployment Unit. The President today issuing a warning shot to the criminals.
We cannot allow criminals to overrun our cities or any part of Kenya.
And moments later, police in Nairobi have arrested 3 suspected muggers near KCA University along Thika Road. The 3, identified as Vincent Derito, Kelvin Maina, and Daniel Mwangi, all aged between 20 and 25 years, were arrested by police who were on patrol around the area. Elsewhere, in a miscellaneous application, Makadara Law Courts granted investigating officers 2 weeks to detain 4 suspects arrested in connection with the murder of Kegan Githua. The four were arrested on Tuesday, with the Directorate of Criminal Investigation in a statement that the series of arrests started early Tuesday, where the first suspect was apprehended at a city toilet along River Road, Nairobi. The suspects had been trailed for about 2 weeks as detectives from Starehe consolidated crucial leads before launching the operation at 4 a.m. The deceased Kigen Githua was stabbed in the chest by robbers on a motorcycle and robbed of his phone, among other valuables, before fleeing away. The 24-year-old information technology graduate succumbed to injuries on arrival at hospital along Kiambu Road, where he was rushed by a Good Samaritan. Moige William, TV 47.
Now, the race to rescue victims from the collapsed Kasarani buildings is on and, of course, has been ongoing as the death toll stands at 3 people. Nairobi Governor Johnson Sakaja has promised to take action on the rogue developer. This report was filed by Rooney Regan.
The case of a building collapsing yesterday at Seasons Kasarani, just 8 days after another building collapsed in Tasi Embakasi, has left many Kenyans questioning the integrity of relevant government offices. It has now emerged that officials from the National Construction Authority had visited the site and halted construction, only for the workers to continue with their work after the officials had left.
Na tuko hapa ili kujua kiini na mwanzo wa nyumba hii. Tumeweza kuelezewa kwamba hii ni nyumba ambayo bado haijapitishwa na county government ya Nairobi kujengwa. Pili, pia the National Construction Authority walikuwa hapa jana na wakaisimamisha asubuhi, na hiyo ilikuwa mara ya 10 kuisimamisha, lakini kwa sababu ambayo haieleweki, hata baada ya jumba lenyewe kusimamishwa linaendelea. Na hivyo tunasema that is impunity ambayo iko ya hali juu sana, and as a government we are going to make sure that this kind of affair is not repeated again.
What was to follow, according to witnesses, was a cat-and-mouse game between the officials and the construction workers, who did not know what fate awaited them. Nairobi Governor Johnson Sakaja visited the site of the tragedy Wednesday morning and promised to go after the developer in court.
First of all, the developer must be charged in court. In fact, Waziri, we will ask the police, the DCI, to find that developer. Who knows, he should not be building a building in this way. The standards of materials are wrong. Not get any permit from the county. There was an enforcement notice, but because of impunity, decided to go on. He needs to be charged with murder, because that is murder. All of those who know they are going on with such construction, I want to put them on notice. Just pull down those buildings yourselves, or let us come for you.
Engineers from different organizations have come out to strongly condemn the rising cases of substandard buildings collapsing in Nairobi, with no serious measures being taken to avert such disasters.
It's unfortunate that the building that collapsed was under construction. At the time of collapse, it was on floor number 6. It's also good to indicate, or important to indicate at this juncture, that at the time of collapse, there were people who are believed to have been inside and they were trapped.
At least 3 bodies were recovered as rescue operations enters a day 2, although the number of people trapped under the rubble is still unclear. Some locals at the site said around 8 or 9 people were near the building when it came down on Tuesday.
All right, well, that's as well quite an unfortunate report, and definitely investigations ongoing. Always reminded that we are supposed to abide by the regulations that are set before we set up such buildings. And so on this very note, I think it is only fair that we take a quick short break, but a reminder that shortly we'll be engaging Benji Ndolo. We'll also be engaging Professor Macharia Munene, as well as the MCA of Chinga Ward, that is in Nyeri County. Kiruga Dhuku will be joining us for a very, very important conversation. Remember, it's all about the the Iyala debate, as of course the elections, or better yet, polling continues today. That is at the level of Parliament. For us to get to know who will represent us out of the 27, then we're supposed to pick 9 that are supposed to represent the country at the Iyala, that is the East African Legislative Assembly as well. We'll be looking at President Uhuru Kenyatta and his traversing of different parts of the continent, and especially the Eastern African bit, in a bid to help, these nations that are struggling, especially on the question of peace, to address the same, and so much more in relation to Kenya and how we get to relate with the global fraternity. So make sure that you drop your comments, ask all the questions that you'd want for us to get the view of your guests on, or our guests on, and I'll definitely get to ask them. The hashtag is Morning Cafe at Linda_Lela TV47KE. We'll now take a quick short break, and then we come back with the gentleman of the day.
What's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga,
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga,
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga,
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga,
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga,
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m.
A very important discussion that we're about to have here, and the gentlemen are already in the studio. And you know, sometimes it gives me a hard time to imagine that every morning I'm introducing gentlemen. I guess the ladies need to, you know, up their game, and we keep saying that we want our space on the table. But you just asked, how are you going to get this space on the table when it's accorded to you at the very lowest level or at the levels of, you know, just growth, and you tend to shy away? I guess this is a challenge to the ladies. Most of the times it's me representing you on set, which is quite unfortunate, but we keep doing it because then there's light at the end of the tunnel, and the progress that we've made so far, the ladies that we see representing us in different dockets, is commendable. And therefore we cross fingers that in as much as we keep saying that we want space on the table, that we should be there to grab these spaces that are accorded to us. And there's no better way than engaging in such very important conversations as to what we're about to have right here on TV47's Morning Cafe. We welcome you. It is fine. You could not be on set, but you can as well join us from wherever it is that you are. The hashtag is Morning Cafe at Linda_Lela TV47KE. That is how you get to interact with us. We sample some of the comments that you drop to us as we continue with the broadcast. It's all about the Kenya's diplomatic relations, and that is basically what cuts across in terms of the relationship that we have between us and the global fraternity. We start off by what is happening right here in the East African community, and then we cross over to the global fraternity. But importantly, as we speak diplomacy, very, very important that we speak of what is happening back at home. President Uhuru Kenyatta has been on that shuttle diplomacy assignment, perhaps doing it very well. We'll be getting the views of the gentlemen who are also specialists, and as well individuals that have traversed the different parts of the world are also very, very, you know, conversant as to the matters of how we're able to relate, and they will tell us just how important then this is for us to have a stable nation. The very first times of President William Ruto upon, you know, the inauguration, we saw him get to different parts of the world, and questions were out already as to why then he's going to these different parts very fast. But it was necessary. Well, upon the demise of the Queen, as well, a very, very important session that was held at the New York and numerous other places that he's tried to go to. This in a bid to just, first of all, get to have bilateral talks with leaders of different entities or different countries for purposes of posterity of the nation and them. And so this is very, very important that we have as a conversation as we get to understand what it is that we've gotten right and what we haven't gotten right, and what we need to do moving forward. Right next to me is Honorable Kiruga Dhuku, Member of Parliament of Chinga Ward, Member of County Assembly. Yeah. Say you meant to that, Mheshimiwa, yes, of Chinga Ward, that is in Nyeri County. It's good to have you, Mheshimiwa. How have you been?
Thank you very much.
From Nyeri?
Yes, from Nyeri.
The people of Chinga are well?
Very well. It have learned a lot.
Yes.
And let me start by saying good morning to everyone, especially to the people from Chinga, and of course the entire Nyeri County. We are fine.
Yes, we're fine, and we're thankful for the rains.
Yes.
We just hope that they are not too much to cause destruction.
Yeah, no, you know, in such instances, we thank God. You know, someone recently was saying, I think this country have sunk into some terrible lows at times. A politician from the opposing side was saying he wished the drought could prolong so that they could get materials with which to fight the government of President William Ruto. That's so evil.
Such is politics. I know it's awful, but such is politics.
It's called self-hate. Yes.
But do you think they really meant that? Wow.
Of course. You know, they just want to see, you know, to see themselves. Anguish. Yeah.
They're still the opposing side. It's still there, yeah?
But we thank God Almighty.
Yeah.
It's raining. and things gonna be well.
Yes, and we cross fingers that indeed they will be well. Political strategist Benji Ndolo is here with us this morning. Up and vibrant as always. It's good to have you.
Yeah, and when you talk about Nyeri, you know, one of my political heroes,
right,
former boss, friend, parent when I was in school with Tony, the Honorable, the late Moi Kibaki.
Right.
So when you talk about Nyeri,
you can relate.
there is a character that you can very well to emulate.
Of course.
Yeah. Character.
It's my mentor.
Intellectual, humility, a devout Catholic, and Gachagua, if he goes in that way, he'll succeed very well.
Is he going in that way? I think we need to discuss that. You see the gentleman that I had yesterday.
Of course, you can see I'm very humble.
You are.
How you
will really go.
I am.
We'll help you rise fast.
Humble you are, I agree.
Yeah.
All right, Professor. It's good to have you, Professor Macharia Munene, foreign policy analyst as well as strategist when it comes to that. Yes, our teacher, Teacher. And when we talk about diplomacy, I think this is his area, and I think we're in the right hands. We're here to learn. Yes, Professor, how are you?
Okay.
Good to have you after a very long time. How have you been?
Thank you very much. It's as times goes and God wishes, it happens.
Yes, we agree. And we always wish and hope that we are able to learn, pass the mantle, because this is great knowledge that, is with you, and perhaps knowledge that really needs to be passed to the other generations for purposes of posterity, and as well acknowledging the importance of diplomacy, acknowledging the importance of integration. And the other day we were talking about South Africa and the fact that we now can have Kenyans proceed to South Africa without the struggles of visa. And I think that is good progress.
Yes.
So here we are, and we are looking forward to hear from you, Professor, so much so. And speaking of diplomacy, do we speak about, Kenya relations and the diplomatic relations that we have with the other countries before we speak of what is happening at home? So much is happening at home, and especially as pertaining to just President William Ruto getting his government in order. And of course, the conversations of CDF, the conversations of whether we need to root out the Cherera 4 and so much more. So as we get into this, briefly, let's just, weigh in on these matters as captured on the papers before we speak of Yala, which is part and parcel of the relationships that we speak of, diplomatic relationship. Definitely speaking about President Uhuru Kenyatta and the way he's traversing the different parts of Africa in a bid to create that aspect of peace. And definitely, the gentleman here remind me that it will be very important for us to have a conversation of our girls and also our boys who are traveling to the different parts of the world as well in search for job opportunities, and how we can have relationships that are good enough to make sure that they're guaranteed of safety as they cross over to this side. So, Professor, we start off with this conversation of us having insecurity in the country.
Insecurity is not a new thing.
Yes. It's been there. It's just that today we are over highlighting it.
It's good to highlight because there's something wrong. In the last month or so, there appears to be an escalation of a sense of insecurity. Some thugs appear to have thought they are free to do their things. And whether it is orchestrated or not, it's not good.
Right.
But that's an internal matter. It's a police issue. And I think the new police commissioner, or IG, that's the proper term now, has vowed, and Minister Kindiki said, no, we are going to do something about it.
Right.
And listening to what was going on, I think they said they are going to put people on patrol, not in uniform, but in other ways of effectiveness.
Sort of a formation of again another unit that
another
is
special
equivalent
unit.
to what was disbanded.
Yes, another special unit.
Yes.
Only with the clear mandate, don't kill anyhow.
Okay. And do you agree that the previous unit that was there really conducted these heinous acts of, say, murder cases that were?
Well, we need all the evidence. It's clear that some people were killed. That one is not disputable. As to whether the circumstances warranted it or not, is another matter. And I think that's what's under investigation. Because whenever there is a confrontation between the security forces and people who are thought to be not very good, sometimes people die.
Right.
And there have been instances when the police have died. So, but it needs to be properly investigated such that you don't put too much blame on one side and exonerate the other. There are clearly some bad people around.
Right. There are clearly some bad people around. And as Professor would rightfully say, Benji, I sort of agree with him that crime is not new, that insecurity is not new in the country. But to a tune of what it is that we are projecting today, one is tempted to ask, are we overdoing it? Are we over-projecting these cases? Is it a reality? Has it escalated to levels that really are wanting, and what really could be informing this? Yesterday, I had some gentlemen who highlighted a couple of matters that they think would be, the main reason why we're having these cases being reported as to being on the rise. Some actually arguing that, well, you decided to stop the activities of, this young men working under this program that was set to make sure that they're cushioned during the COVID-19 times, Kazi Mtaani, and a couple of matters that the hustlers sort of feel, now it is our government and they can do what it is that they can do. The cases of job, lack of job opportunities and all that. What really could be informing this? Do you suppose that really there's that rise?
Linda, I've worked with you for a couple of years now, since our previous, station that we worked for. And I'm the last person in Kenya to excuse mediocrity. And I very much, especially in the presence of leaders, like to urge that that we never allow a beautiful country like this that rains so well sometimes, that has mineral deposits, that has the most beautiful wildlife. A country like this that has such a youth bulge. I was fortunate to have dinner with some Russian investors last evening. And one of the things that came out, we talked about Eastern Europe, about Croatia, Ukraine, Bulgaria, and the underlying factor of poverty. And what happens when there is mass unemployment, when there is poverty, the kind of hopelessness that you find with the youth. And we cannot have a country where the obvious first role of government is to guarantee security. How can it be that you can walk around in town? We are now back to the Moi days. You cannot talk on your phone. When your phone rings, you have to jump into a shop to answer. You have just wanton stranglings, in broad daylight. This is completely unacceptable and inexcusable. You cannot have any justification whatsoever that Kenyans cannot go about their business, cannot even window shop, because the CBD is a nightmare, because there are conmen all over doing all manner of things in the name of companies like Safaricom. So there's a team around archives that, try to,
tell you that we have this deal
to access, and then they access your wallet, your M-Shwari and what have you, and drain it in broad daylight. One of the things that I hate to say is that part of what has really caused this spike is after the disbandment and public arraignment of the SSU that was operating under DCI Kinoti. It seems, for all intents and purposes, and I've done quite a bit of research the last few days, that there's been some sort of go-slow, quiet go-slow. Police don't go about striking like doctors, medics, or teachers. They just do it quietly. Usually they block signals on the radio calls. When you call them, they ignore. I saw. It sort of
felt like it was a target on them.
Exactly,
you think?
Exactly. And so in solidarity with their counterparts, not that you can justify what that unit was doing. But I saw testimony from a lady yesterday on Twitter who said she witnessed a mugging on Jogoo Road, and when she accosted 2 police officers on patrol and said, nimeacha jamaa na nyongo hapo nyuma, the officer simply answered to her, kuleni ujeuri yenyu. So there's a deeper problem here, and like Mheshimiwa was saying, we must be patriotic at all times and so forward-leaning that we cannot support some of the things to make the Ruto government look bad.
But the irony of it all is that
ridiculous.
and perhaps Mheshimiwa to come in on this, while there's been the disbandment of that unit, there's also a lot of goodies that have been presented to the police service. And you ask yourself, why is it that they would not look at these goodies to appreciate and swing to action and conduct their duties as expected, in as much as, this would appear as speculation?
Yeah, thank you, Leader. I think eventually things will settle. Even in a new marriage, it's bringing new partners together.
But you see, people are losing lives. They're losing
Sure.
You cannot even think about it.
Yeah, and right now,
yeah.
The police have started catching up, because you see, there was that perception, like maybe the new administration want to be harsh to the police. The administration of His Excellency William Ruto is busy, turning around that narrative. And you saw, only yesterday, the president met all the police commanders, and he told them, please, we don't want you to be misused politically.
I didn't see that. At State House?
Yes. He met them.
Oh, I didn't see that.
And he said, look guys, we want you to do your work.
Yeah, not joking.
And we will protect you to do your work, because you realize, during the last term of Jubilee, the police were really misused in this country. Because if I was in government, I was a senior person in government, and Beji was on the other side, and I didn't like what he was doing, the political class was actually using the police, to commit...
For harassment.
Yes, for harassment, like that disbanded unit. It had reached a point, and many people may not know this, but it had reached a point, if I disagreed with Professor there, now I pay them. It's far away from, now this is removed even from fighting crime. I pay them to deal on my behalf with Professor. We cannot have such a cut.
But you see, we also had very vocal, and they're still there, vocal leaders within the Tanga side then. Vocals to an extent that you would not imagine that such would be conducted to them and they would keep silence. Why is it that we never knew about this?
But look at what was being done. For example, let me tell you, when a government decides to go after you, look at what it did to Kenneth Matiba. Kenneth Matiba was a very strong person.
Absolutely.
You see? So, look at our deputy president. And leader, I kept telling you here, this thing is not proper. Because you see, people go and sit and decide to use government machinery to come after you.
To what extent? And perhaps to loop you in, Professor, you have been here long enough. And sometimes when they say the government, if it decides to go for you, it goes for you to the very last beat of it executing what it intends to do that. Do you suppose the Uhuru government was targeting, the then Tanga side, and to the level that Uhuru would have stepped out satisfied that I have dealt with these ones accordingly? Because today they are in power. Are these people who are really dealt on or dealt with?
There was an impression created that the Uhuru government had gone haywire. And some people misused their connections with the president. As to whether the president was in charge of some of those things is another matter. But some people close to him were said to do strange things. And those strange things became public. And so you have that kind of reaction. The impression was there. Uhuru is no longer president, so it's not for him to exonerate himself. But I think there is need for proper investigation as to what it is that went wrong. The misuse of the security forces, if it was there, they need to be properly investigated. Very unfortunate for President William Ruto. The impression that has been created is that his government is on a vendetta. That's also a bad impression. And so what my colleagues are pointing out, there appears to be a go-slow in the police. Demoralized, they appear to have been demoralized. And the last thing you want is to demoralize the security operators. They should be assured, properly assured, but they should not be demoralized. The bad apples, because there are some bad police officers, and they are criminals. Like what Mheshimiwa was saying, what was described, that's criminal. It's not police work. It's criminal. Those ones can be weeded out and should be weeded out. But the method of weeding out should not be one of demoralizing the rest. Because what has happened now is the collective sense is now affected.
Right.
And as Benji was saying, that somebody is being mugged and the police are enjoying,
or watching,
and concerned. And you ask them, why is that? Because they've lost their sense of the police duty.
Yes.
And the impression being created is that they are demoralized. And so, how do you deal with this demoralization to restore confidence so that they do their work? They will not be misused to do political work, although they always do political work. But they will not be overly misused, such that they lose their sense of purpose. And that needs to come from the top. Going is it escalating or
escalating down,
downwards,
cascading down
to the policeman on the beat.
Correct.
So that they have confidence and that people can trust them. See, the other thing that needs to be worked out is how to build that trust relationship between the civilians or the people and the police on the beat. Of course, there have been many times when you go to the police station that you want to report something, and for some reason there is no pen or something to record this, or something is happening and say there is no petrol in the car, which is a disaster in itself, or there is no car. Some of those things have been there for a long time, and there's need to do something about it. Right. First of all, to restore the confidence of the police officers.
Yeah.
To do the right thing.
Yeah, and Benji, I would agree that we are at that point of restoring their confidence. I don't know whether...
I'd like to interject because we have Prof here, sometimes we need the intellectual context
aspect,
of issues, because he can help us decipher some of these things. You see, the new administration is on a pathway, and I'd like Prof to clarify to us. Yeah. When you are trying to deal with issues as serious as what Mheshimiwa was saying, a squad is there. It has a container where they were torturing people. The container now in Apimwa hapa Nairobi area by forensics, for DNA and what have you. Prof, is it vendetta or is it accountability? Which is it that we want now to get accountability to actually know what happened and hold those to account? I mean, a team came from India, they were kidnapped, their clothes were found in Aberdare forest and what have you, So do you just let that go? Or does pursuing that, Linda, become vendetta? Or is it, how do you get accountability going forward?
You see, it's a difficult one. What I said is an impression has been created.
Yes, sir.
Whether it is vendetta or not is not the issue. But there is that public impression that there is a vendetta.
Yes.
Let me deviate a little bit to show the thinking. On the inauguration day, what happened? The deputy president went out of his way to say very unpleasant things.
In front of other heads of state.
Yes. In a national day.
In front of other presidents.
In front of the whole country, not just the whole country. And then you have visitors.
Yeah. Okay. The whole continent, therefore.
The whole world was watching. And yes, those things might have happened. But was that the right forum?
Certainly not.
So what impression was that? Was it not one of vendetta?
Yes, we are here. Yes, it was. Like we're here now to...
Yeah, to do whatever we want. Not what you people want is not the issue. And so poor deputy president missed the point.
Could you argue that he was in pain? Too much pain?
No, he's supposed to be mature enough. Look, there is maturity issue here.
Right.
We expect that people in leadership are able to weigh the situation and give the right direction. That people can say, yes, I think that makes sense.
Yes.
But there are also things you can do and people wonder, what's going on here? Okay? What's going on?
Right.
And you do not want the public wondering what is going on. And that was a mistake.
That was a mistake.
Yeah. I mean, some of the things he said, he could have said them somewhere in Madeira.
And we want to ask Mheshimiwa whether they have had a sitting with him to remind him that,
that there are some things you don't.
Yes.
You know, irrespective of what you are doing, there are some things you do not do.
And as if Benji read my mind, that question was to go to you. Is there a better way that the administration would have handled this so that it does not appear like it is vendetta or anything? But I know you want to...
I wanted to say something.
Yeah.
Prof is our elder, and in fact, I feel very honored to be in this panel with him.
Yeah.
And Prof is a scholar.
Right.
And he can only approach things from that perspective.
Okay.
But with us, we have been on the ground, Prof, and it's not been easy. In fact, the president of this country, people used to say all manner of things towards him.
Yeah.
True. But he is a man in his own class that, despite the things we witnessed happening to him, very closely because we closely interacted with him, he put the Bible down. He appointed the outgoing president to be a regional peace ambassador. But now, the judges. Those people now, they could not go to the courts there because they had all been sworn. They could not go back to their stations. Things were very bad, Prof. Now, for politicians, we get things differently. And for someone like Mheshimiwa Rigathi Gachagua, our deputy president, personally, I can wholly excuse him because where the Jubilee government was taking him, they totally wanted to completely destroy him politically. You see, Prof? Because when people come, and I think I need to say this here so that you can understand the pain. In the presence of his wife and children, they get him in boxers. They arrest him for trumped-up charges just because he looked now the center figure in the central or Mount Kenya region.
How did they break into the house? What happened? How did they get in?
They forced their way into the house. And you see now, even it is the wife now who was drawing a call to him to cover his nakedness. Prof, I think for one.
No,
so this
even
when
happened. No, look, I do not dispute that.
Let me come
Professor,
here. Prof, if the same happens to you,
and this is factual.
And this is factual.
Okay.
At times, things may be happening negatively, but it is good at times to let it happen or to let them out despite the... it is like when you are in your house, right? And your child starts throwing tantrums there, takes sugar, eats fat, because they are guests. No, you deal with it there in front of the guests.
Is it? Okay,
yes.
Well, interesting. I don't know.
And just to buttress his point, though I try to be very neutral and objective, it's very interesting because on Sunday, if you saw His Excellency, the DP, because this story kind of has refused to go away, he explained that after the president spoke, Ruto himself, the DP said that had he known what Ruto was going through, because he was also going through too much, he would have left Ruto. Because it was too much. So he was telling him, Your Excellency, you're very strong. I didn't know. This is news to me, that you're also going through this. That if he knew, ingesambaratisha Kenya Kwanza team, because there would have been so much disarray and confusion. People get selfish and what have you.
Almost like this is not headed anywhere.
One of the things that you asked me that I want to just maybe underscore here, I have seen a lot of discussion around the need to do a lot of security matters with utmost secrecy. I'm not sure I agree with that.
That is the right thing.
I'm not sure I agree with that. One of the things I always say about DP Rigathi is that, Linda, if you think about the digital environment we live in now, because Kenya is not China. Right. For example, you don't have Twitter in China. If you think about the issues as they are, the climate change, how we need to discuss things openly about.
Yes.
Are we planting trees? How many trees? How are we going to do it? Why? Hustler fund, at what rate? Like yesterday, there was a lot of discussion on amounts. And a lot of people asked me, in your opinion, Benji, about how much should this thing be? And I was saying, we want to transform lives. it would be wonderful if this fund can go even in some instances up to 5 million shillings to actually get someone who amepata, they're very smart, amepata pesa proper at a very good rate that it's like your dream come true. Not just dreaming of going to America, but you can actually make this country you know, also a small America on its own. So in that regard, Linda, I would like that we have less secrecy and more openness.
Yes, because
more openness.
You see, this is what Mheshimiwa says.
Yes,
we do not even know whether we should trust it or not.
More openness so that even Kenyans, because there's so much secrecy sometimes around government, where, Prof, I'm sure you agree with me, some of these squads, you don't even know, are these police officers? Are these criminals? Are these hybrid, part-time cop, part-time thug? And to the credit again of my political hero, Honorable Mwai Kibaki, you remember during Kibaki's tenure, it is only the squads that went after Mungiki. But Kibaki would never fashion any kind of squad for his political opponent. You know, for someone he disagrees with.
Right.
So expansion of democratic space, without a doubt, that is where it took root proper. And we need to advance that. I used to say, you know, jokingly, but with a lot of pain also, that Uhuru is using police like G4S. And President Uhuru had a chance to be the best to outdo Kibaki. He's a friend of mine, and of course he didn't. And now you talk to his people all the time. Yes, I said, he's a young guy. He needs to just be very sober. But you know, this whole handshake business, I think it really changanyad him.
Was it that bad, really?
It became that bad because as the president used to say, the then deputy president, just imagine you are in a government, you interview and employ and vet CSs who are abusing you in public.
Right.
Kina Eugene and Citily and who. I mean, that is just inhuman.
That had to be.
I don't have to be a UDA.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Prof, you should sum it up for us.
That is in a
I'm not disputing anything that they are saying.
That can't be right. That can't be right.
As matters of fact, that's not in dispute.
Right.
But that is not the point.
Yes.
Okay? Rigathi Gachagua has ambitions of being a leader.
Clear ambitions.
Yeah.
They started by asking or saying if Rigathi was to go.
And there are some things a leader should not do.
Yes.
A leader should be able to show maturity. Because you have the whole country, a lot of people looking up to him.
Yeah.
True.
And they are wondering, is that the sort of person you want to lead you?
True.
When things happen and they create more concern than confidence.
Too gangster for that office.
Yeah. So the interesting thing is, Rigathi Gachagua and Uhuru are buddies. They used to work together.
Yeah, he was his PA actually.
Okay?
Yeah, he was.
And Rigathi Gachagua and Moi used to be very good friends. And they were
an employee boss.
You know, so we don't want to go deep into some of these things. But what I'm talking about is, in the coming days, what impression are you creating? And in that regard, Gachagua failed. Okay? Because as a leader with high hopes, because he has dreams of leading the mountain.
Oh, yes.
You know, he's not there yet.
Yes.
He's not there. But he has dreams of being what?
Kingpin.
Kingpin.
And I forget about these kings. We don't like kings.
We're not a monarch, yeah?
No. In the mountain, we don't believe in kings.
I'm joking.
So, but he has that ambition, and he's not the only one. There are a lot of other people who would like to be.
Yeah.
So the impression he creates out there is very important. And the impression that he may be on vendetta is not very good for him. And for him, because he also would like to be president one day.
Would he?
Of course. Why not?
Would he not?
Why not? So the building, the impression he creates now will have effect afterwards. And that's why the point is, he should not be going around saying that he's a vengeful person, he's very bitter. Of course, all those things were done to him, I don't know, because I was not there. So if he said they were done, they were done. I'm not going to question that. But the forum for discussing these things is another matter.
Okay.
Yes, Benji has talked about that the other day. Gachagua was talking about how Ruto was humiliated. But he did not do that on the inauguration
That
day.
day, yes.
This was a very different, and I have no quarrel with that. When he was saying the setting for that was a very different setting, and it's understandable. But what I've been saying or trying to say is, a leader needs to weigh
their words,
the occasion, and know what it is. Needs to be civil, and being civil is being careful. And being careful so that you don't create more damage than what you are trying to cure.
And so, as Benji was raising a concern that perhaps some of these things should not be done in secret, so how do they address the failures of the previous government and the failures of the current government?
I'm not saying that it should be done in secret.
Yes.
But investigations don't have to be trumpeted on.
But then again, it's in order for them to perhaps address what was there then and was a problem?
No, it's necessary to address.
Yes.
That's why the Ruto government needs to do a lot of reviews.
Okay.
Yeah? Reviews of what may or may not have happened. I think he started well with the body that's running around asking about CBC, the Munavu team.
Yes.
I think that was the right.
That is in order.
Yeah, in order to say that, look, we need to find out. And so have Munavu. Munavu is a good man.
He's from my place, by the way.
I think I have a point. I think, you know...
You want to counter what Prof says?
Prof is a very good man. And...
sometimes.
No.
Because he's about to tell us that he's not done
in our community, an elder is always an elder.
Yeah.
Prof is our elder. And even if we differ, he has my maximum respect. You know, at times, right, we need that someone who can say what all the rest of you cannot say.
And that is the regard
that is it. You, look, even, you know, the world acclaimed Nelson Mandela, at times he could get into very strong language, saying the prophets of doom could not stop this, and he could say it doesn't matter who is there.
But I think Prof does not dispute the fact that he should say. But look at the context, look at the timings, look at
yes, and that is where I'm coming. Of course, I still respect the president. And of course, if you ask a DP today, he will tell you he still respects President Uhuru Kenyatta. But some of the things that had happened, right? You know, we needed someone, you know, it is sort of a catharsis that we needed someone. Fine.
To come and remind us of, because Kenyans already know these things. Yeah?
Prof as a diplomat, and I respect his opinion, might have a problem with that, but personally, and to most of us, there needed someone courageous enough to call a spade, irrespective of who was present. But because you see, and I don't want to appear like I'm speaking on behalf of the Deputy President. Of course, he knows how to speak on his own
behalf.
He has a good mouth.
Yeah. I never actually articulate. Oh, Lord, it's better than me. But the thing is this. This man, you know, I have personally worked with him for long. And he is so thorough. And Prof, you know, we need to give him credit. You don't, it's not very normal that you find a first-time MP licensed to become a deputy president. You know, even our opponents were insulting him. They were telling him, this guy has not even been a chairman of any committee, so he cannot make a deputy president. He will fail.
But even within you people, let us be honest for a moment, that the debate was there and it was in the public domain, that even within you people as Kenya Kwanza, as Tanga then, there was some, actually a majority thought that it's going to be
look here, Linda.
So you cannot point fingers at the opponents.
Linda, look here. You are one of the best broadcasters we have in this country.
She is.
You are.
She is.
Even if I was told, whom would you propose to go to CNN, I would come and pick you. But do you think everyone likes you?
They definitely
No,
don't.
if they were told to vote, in fact, that sharpness we see in you, that aggressive we see in you.
Sometimes that's
brings you
that's
down.
what brings you down.
People would come and say, look, we don't want her. She's so sharp. She will be even liked by even Wazugus there. So let's bring her down.
Let's get an incompetent.
And that is very normal in politics.
Okay.
So
Because I want us to move out of that. It's
yes,
not,
and
Mzee
yes.
Kibaki, you know, Beji here is mentioning, Mzee Kibaki was my mentor. He never wanted so much to dwell so much on discussing.
On a matter.
But I just wanted to touch that one. So because the DP is a good person, and Prof, for Lil, you see the work he will do for this country.
No,
what I wanted to come to is that because we were discussing crime, the president and his deputy and the Kenya Kwanza government are so committed. And you see, it was looking like, and again, Prof is talking about perception. You know, at times perception is bad. It was looking like there is a perception that you can even slap a policeman who is armed, and he is not supposed to shoot, to use that to react. Yeah. You see, there has been very clear instructions, right? You are our police. You cannot stand there, or no one should intimidate you that someone is mugging and stabbing someone there, as we just watched. No, shoot that criminal.
Are you telling them the human rights activists will come for that?
Even I'm a human rights activist myself. But tell me, right? What do you want me to say if someone is here stabbing Beji, stabbing Prof, wanting to steal? It will not happen. But I'm giving an example. This is someone who wants. This man has worked for 30 days. That person have worked for his money. But you want to come. You are stabbing women, right? You are even stabbing students.
Action has
you should be shot dead. I'm a human rights activist. You
Gentlemen,
see?
yes.
But you see, there is no other way we can deal with you.
That's where the issue comes in.
Yes.
As far as these police officers were doing, they were dealing with that kind of situation.
And that became a problem.
And now that has been turned into a problem. And that's why you have a God's law. Now, you keep on mentioning Kibaki. He was a good man.
I admired him a lot.
I had a few interactions with him, not many. But one of the things about Kibaki, he also went through a lot of pain.
True.
As vice president.
And he did not.
He's the one when in 1984, Moi was coming from somewhere and he looked at him and told him, stop thinking.
Yeah.
Because thinking is a presidential prerogative.
Yes. And he actually acted that.
Yeah, but when he became president,
he did not.
He did not revisit some of those things.
Yeah,
in fact, he went out of his way to protect Moi.
Right.
Yeah, which was a mistake.
And that's maturity. And why did he do that? Because he was mature. He also looked at the interest of the country. How are they going to be protected?
Stability.
So the transition, the order, respect for the office of the president, the former president. You may not like him, you may have, but show some respect to it, because it will be replicated in future. And so the issue here is the image being created. I have no doubt that Gachagua is a hard-working man. Okay, I have no doubt.
Gets up early in the morning,
to rise to that position for whatever way he did is not a simple thing.
A walk in the park.
Okay, he did. So give him that credit. Having said that, that does not mean that you take everything he comes up with. you point out when he's messing up.
Yes.
And in good faith.
Yes.
You point, and so that he can rectify some of those things.
Benji, allow us to close this.
Yeah, we're closing, and maybe I'm in a very unique vantage point. Having worked for the 10th Vice President, His Excellency Kalonzo Musyoka, a born diplomat, described variously even as a coward by, for example, Janet Ngini.
Yeah.
So having worked for a man like that, and having met His Excellency Gachagua, which I've met Gachagua once, interacted almost for a whole day, talking about different things. Indeed, he is quite rough. He's very a bit overbearing, but he has a very good side. He has a very good human side, kind of a kind side. You see the whole thing of maybe their upbringing with the Harambe thing, kusaidia huyu, kusaidia yule, ntasaidia. So he has that. And weighing those two gentlemen together, I can say I'm more leaning on the side of openness, transparency, not hiding maneno. Because the whole diplomatic thing sometimes, it doesn't really work for you. I mean, you unaumia uko peke yako, your name called.
Many ways to kill a rat, they say.
Yeah.
All right, and eventually we get to the bottom of it. And we've tried diplomacy, perhaps hasn't worked.
Exactly.
It's time that maybe we
You roll
we have to close this.
Yeah, as we get out of it, Linda, I just wanted to point something. You know, we were talking about, and Prof have put it very well, those perceptions and things like, you know, it's kind of sabotage behind the scenes. And I wanted to bring in an incident as we close the discussion that happened in our area. During President Uhuru's tenure, there had been an agreement. There is a road that would come from Nyandarua and link Nyeri and Murang'a, right? And all clearances were given. When now President William Ruto was elected, some guys, and you know, this is what looks like sabotage in the Kenya Wildlife, in the Kenya Forest Services, in NEMA, right? And these are people who must hate this government very much. They have come back and went back against the authorization that had come from Uhuru's government. Now they are saying this road, and it is already there, Prof. It's already there. It's not being done. The only thing they want to do is put tarmac on it. Now they have come and said, no, you see, we have realized if we give authorization, this road will interfere with the ecosystem. And you wonder, have they got a new brains? Because
had the environmental impact assessment
it had been done during President Uhuru's time, everything had been given go ahead. Now, yes, now they want President William Ruto's government to look bad in the eyes of the mountain people. So what we are
But who are these people?
They are in the wildlife. You will see they are hiding. You know they are hiding in this association, the Kenya Forest Services, Kenya Wildlife, NEMA. You see, what had been authorized, imagine now they are saying it is not. And these are the saboteurs we are saying the new government must deal with, because now, look, Prof, in Nyeri, this drought had really affected our people. In fact, the Catholic Church, the Nyeri County government have had to solicit for food. On the other side, people have surplus. Food is rotting in the chambers. And with this road
in
Nyandarua, with this road properly done, right? You know, this food could be coming, you know, could have been brought to the other side. So what we are saying is, this government must look out for these saboteurs.
And we hope that this government then would look out for these saboteurs, but at the same time, Kenyans have been saying, can this government get to action and work without saying that, oh, this is what happened to us, this is what we want action.
It is us who are bringing out these issues,
so
because
that
it is good that people know what is happening. Not justify failures. You see now, what I have just brought out here is something very serious.
Yes.
And even people there are saying, oh, it's the government they want to blame. But you see, it is someone who wants exactly that to happen.
But Linda, clarification.
But you see, Mheshimiwa, the issue of impression again.
You know, we have to sum this up. Yes, the issue of...
the issue of impression. The road he has talked, the Mau Mau road.
Yes.
The impression out there is that the new government, because they didn't like what Uhuru was doing, is now stopping something.
Yeah, which is a lie.
See, no, you can say it's a lie. That's the impression out there.
Yes.
Okay. And so how do you deal with this so that those negative impressions do not keep on increasing?
Yes.
I mean, that's a challenge to
we can't keep articulating this. Yes.
And Rigathi.
Let me say what is obvious.
Yes.
Yeah. Let me say what is obvious, and we talked about it here the last time I was here. Cost of living is it's out of control. So the decreases for petroleum are not enough. And I'm saying this to the entire Economic Council headed by David D and what have you. What is not in doubt though is, Linda, since the president was inaugurated, he has not taken a single day off. He has not taken a single day off. So let us not argue the obvious. He is working hard. Yeah. Actually, I don't know when he rests because he's working on Sunday. He has been to, since inauguration, he has been to I don't know how many countries in the region and internationally. As president, he has been to the US, he has been to the UK, he has been he has not had a single day of rest. And I think the papers showed the other day he's had a total of 162 meetings, I think within 2.5 months.
Right.
he therefore must be supported, and must be supported by the best brains, the best teams, the best energy in order to deliver. We cannot afford to fail.
Well, we cannot afford to fail.
Can't afford to fail. How?
Yes, we can't. You know, I would have loved for us to skip this one, but let me just talk about it. It finds itself on the papers this morning. Tragedy, 6 rescued and 3 die after a building collapses. It was just about like 8 days before another one. You know, I mean, before this, then there was another one that collapsed somewhere in Embakasi. Today, in Ruaka, a 5-story building collapses, and I think it's a developing story, and therefore we'll be getting news about this. Just what is this, Professor?
Lack of professionalism, and maybe corruption. From the rubbles that I saw.
Yes, and especially on this one. That's
the one in Kasarani.
Yeah, Kasarani.
You could see clearly the wires that were being used were very inappropriate. Maybe Y8 or
not the
Y10.
right standards for
not the heavy ones that should be something like maybe Y20 when you are putting up a high-rise building, and the kind of where the tumor they are using is like sengenge. So that is a criminal offense. Maybe the owner was trying to get shortcuts, save a little money, which is stupid in itself. Because you don't try to save money by doing substandard work and expect to. And apparently he was warned that things were not going well.
And he proceeded to.
And he proceeded, I think it's Governor Sakanja was saying, maybe he bribed his way to be allowed to continue. But either way, it's for those who are doing construction work and the supervisors to be very careful. Because clearly that one was somebody trying to take shortcuts and get away with it. And then now what happened in Ruakat this morning.
Yes, and only one person has been rescued.
So it is, the story is the same, substandard work. And it needs to be stopped. You know, whatever the story. And we have all these supervisors, NEMA, whatever they go supervising buildings that are coming up, and then they go away. And sometimes with the clearance, there's, you know, because they have been facilitated to clear. That itself is, these are some of the things that need to be dealt with. But it is a tragedy, failure on the part of the professionals, and failure on the part of the investor.
Right.
They are misinvesting, not investing.
To be honest, because
because
you want to set up a structure
that building now,
down.
whatever how many millions it has cost so far, that's all wasted.
Right.
Why? Because somebody wanted a shortcut. The same thing with Ruaka in Embakasi. So public education needs to be made to investors, actually, to say, look, when you are doing this, please do it properly. Because it's going to damage you in a selfish way. And it damages the public and the country. So it's public education. We need to engage in that.
We need to do that. And perhaps, you know, that aspect of responsibility is very, very important. Allow us to shelve that. It's a developing story. We'll be coming to it and giving you details of what is playing out in Ruaka as rescue activities continue. And we are talking about President Uhuru Kenyatta as your friend. Benji Ndolo, doing well so far. That is the regional aspect. And, you know, we kept saying that he's too young to retire. Others said that, well, we do not want him play, you know, local politics.
That's
others argued,
language.
can he get to the continental stage? And that he has done.
That was the responsible language on the part of Francis Atwoli.
Atwoli and many others that supported it.
You know, once again, I mean, you can see third President Kibaki's attitude about extending. I mean, you could not countenance thinking of extending the 2 terms, and he talked about it. Tuliweka katiba ya 2 terms.
Can we just...
Yes, and na wengine wanakuja wanasema kama unaweza endelea. And he's like, wewe unajanganya nani? Hiyo ni upumbavu. You know, you must have a leader very selfless as far as his own thirst and yearning for position takes. And so the reason I keep referencing this man is because that is a kind of culture you want to inculcate. So that even for you, when you are maybe dreaming or thinking of something like that, then you think, is something wrong with me? And indeed, I knew that my friend H.E. Uhuru did not have any ambitions to continue. Right. There was a lot of pressure behind the scenes. I have senior friends of mine in government that were saying, oh, you know, his family is so invested, so under BBI he can come back as prime minister to succeed himself, blah, blah, blah. That is not the way to go. And indeed, he left office, and that's important. He is doing a good job. There is life after politics. And what option does he have? Uhuru should do the job that he was assigned by the president. That is the way to go. Yes. He was assigned a role. In fact, here he is in North Kivu province, meeting in Goma day before yesterday, to do a lot of the mediation kind of process that needs to happen between the factions, between the rebel factions. For obvious reasons, you know, we have mining of cobalt, thionium, niobium, that kind of thing. And these are very valuable rare earth materials that we also happen to have, by the way, here in, a lot of people don't know, in Kwale, in Brima Hill, So some sort of collaboration in the long term is what we can gain. But the president should not be, the former president should not be, you know, some sort of political spanner, errand boy. You know, he must respect his stature as a former head of state, etc. Not to continue in this kind of divisive thing, you know, as Azimio chairman and all of that. I think all of that is water under the bridge. Let that stuff go, that drama, that two bob comedy up and apale. You can see some of these Azimio guys have literally nominated their own children. Some of them.
You think that is wrong? We're going to come to
Of course
Iyala.
it's very wrong.
How is it wrong?
For Mheshimiwa Kalonzo for the second term. For the Mheshimiwa Kalonzo for the second term. Of course it's even unthinkable. What are you talking about? It's
Don't you think he
ridiculous.
did well? Don't you think he did well to...
Did well how? And let me embarrass you on air. Allow me to embarrass you on air. Kennedy Kalonzo's son, has already been an Iyala MP for one term. You are a senior journalist in Kenya. I want to challenge you. Say now on air one thing, not two, that he has said. Just just say one thing.
During his tenure.
Just tell me what you know him for.
You know, we interviewed him, so
being
Elizabeth
Kalonzo's
Mutuko
son.
will tell you that he said a couple of things.
No, what do you remember? You interviewed him even. What do you remember? Tell me what you remember.
We're going to come to Iyala, and I'll tell you what I remember.
That's the point.
We're going to come to
this
Iyala,
kind of thing.
and I'll tell you what I remember.
And this kind of thing.
Benji, we're going to come to Iyala shortly, and I'll tell you what I remember. Let's
wrong.
not hit him
It's
so
very
hard.
wrong.
At least, I mean,
Okay. Thank you so much.
President Uhuru Kenyatta, or
Yes.
former President Uhuru Kenyatta.
Yes. You know, anytime you mention President Uhuru Kenyatta, our retired president, it automatically leads you to discuss President William Ruto. Because the role of President Uhuru Kenyatta brings a very positive side about President William Ruto. You see, Prof here said something very important, and this is very, very important, that what we do today, what we do to our former leaders today, you know, portends what will happen even in future. President Uhuru is doing a very good work. You remember, I remember discussing with you here and saying, if I was to advise President Uhuru, I would tell him to completely leave the politics of Raila and President and the then DP Ruto, you know, out of his hands, so that whomever wins, or even if they disagree, he will be the peacemaker between them. Now, President Ruto has acted very well, and I think this is one president whom people don't understand well. I think this is one president who will prove a lot of people very wrong. Like my brother Benji here says, you know, he works up to midnight.
Yeah.
And one of the most magnanimous steps that President Ruto took, and I think this will go down in history, was that act of appointing President Uhuru Kenyatta to be a peace mediator in the region on behalf of the Kenyan government, despite
being chairman,
all that had been happening. You know, as my brother here says, you know, President Uhuru was the chairman of the coalition that really wanted to see to it that President William Ruto never said it.
And that is democracy.
That is democracy. But you see, there are petty people in this world. Another person.
Politics.
I mean, and Prof is here. And he's a very senior professor, and he can tell you around the world, we have very vindictive leaders, right? Mm-hmm. Some even go to an extent of killing other people in the name of politics, which is very wrong.
And President Uhuru Kenyatta, our former president, really did not do that. And I remember there's a time he stands and says, you know, I have had the instruments of power with me. Why would I want to do something?
Of course, you know Uhuru.
Yet I had the capability of doing.
Of course, you know Uhuru. President Uhuru was a very good man, but you see now the problem is the kind of friends at times we have.
Murabe.
They came. They showed him William Ruto.
Be radical.
Who was a very bad man.
But was he?
Despite the fact that and Prof is here, Beji is here, everyone knows in this republic. Anyone who loves the truth knows. Without the support of one William Ruto, Uhuru Kenyatta would never have been.
But he also acknowledges that really there are some bad things that also on the other side.
See, Linda, let me help you with just one minute.
Then they say Ruto is bad, but here is 55 billion spent under Uhuru without House approval.
Okay.
These are facts. So the thing is this, because I want to finish this point.
Wait until, you see, they are also investigating on that.
No, but it's
but I wanted to finish my point by saying,
yes,
this is a very good precedent that has been set by President William Ruto, and he said it even before he was elected. Actually, it's not that he is thinking about it now that he becomes the president. He said, you know, the way we have been treating our elders. When President Uhuru retires, he will be treated as an elder statesman of this nation, and he went ahead to do that. So, and because my brother...
What does that tell us? If you speak of this person or this reign as a reign that wasn't so good, and then you tell us again, we're going to accord him the respect and all that and let him go in peace. Are you telling us that you're not going to address those things that were conducted?
No, those things will be, you know...
How?
They'll be done. Okay. Look, but just like you had Professor here saying, that Mzee Kibaki, when he became the president,
did not.
Instead of becoming vindictive, he went out of his way. Because, you know...
Is that justice to the people of Kenya? Is that justice to the people?
Look, Linda. No, look. You know, there is one thing. You can do more damage thinking that you are trying to help people.
Okay.
You know, if you start attacking a retired president, you know the same thing will happen to you. Look,
so this is clearly a game of interest.
No, the Kenya Kwanza government has made it very clear. It is going to go for those things that went wrong. You see? But again, you see, and because my brother here mentioned it, you know, people try to bring all manner of diversionary tactics. Like now the president has made it very clear. If you are a Kenya Kwanza leader, you are an MP or any other leader, don't start bringing about discussions that you want us to discuss
term limits. And I think we should give him credit for that. You know, Benji spoke about Kibaki, he did not speak about him.
No, President Ruto has said he's not interested in such discussion. Yeah. Can you focus on serving Wanjiku?
Okay.
Let us first focus on Wananchi.
It is one thing to say, it is another one to follow. I don't know whether you...
Oh, well, no, I told you, Linda.
Yes.
And I'm saying this because Prof and Beji are my witnesses. President William Ruto says what he means and means what he says.
You know, President Uhuru Kenyatta appeared to say that, you know, or better yet, he said actually he's not interested, and even Benji has acknowledged that.
Yeah.
But with the BBIs and the conversations of Azimio,
in fact, you and I
almost sort of felt, yes.
In fact, you and I discussed it in 2020, I remember, during the height of BBI.
And it almost felt like...
And I was making the predictions because the kind of funding and support the government was giving to BBI, I was never convinced that Uhuru was really keen. Yes, that Uhuru was keen on ensuring BBI happens, and then he comes himself. And yet that was the suspicion.
That was the suspicion.
Because also you have to understand someone at a personal level. I think, Prof, I don't know how well you know President Uhuru. He really loves his life.
His life, his
yes, totally.
No, he enjoys life.
Yes. So the office, really the weight of carrying the office and the country, even when he talked about how he left social media, etc., you could see that this was a lot of stress on him. All the name calling, the caricaturing, etc. So he was really, and if you remember the first interview, one of the first interviews at State House with Jackie Maribe and your colleague Lulu Hassan and Kanze, who eventually worked for them then. And they just asked him, you know, just kind of offhand, you know, what do you miss about, you know, before? And he was like, oh, just, you know, meeting my friends, kutembea hapa na pale, kula nyama, you know, I can't just do that. I can't just get up and
going
run out.
there
Exactly.
to dance for 2
So he was looking forward, going back to private life. And even now, the fact that he is not surrounded by a lot of the team that was with him before, his former PA, Nje Muturi, is a good friend of mine. And I met him just last week and I said, hey, where is the boss? And he said, you know, boss was like, kila mtu arudi kwa kazi yake. Yeah, like now me I'm a lawyer.
Let me be.
Yeah. And that was a very good answer because he said, you know, I just said casually at Lavington Mall, you know, he said, oh, boss said, kila mtu arudi kwa kazi yake, meaning he wants peace. Just to have maybe one bodyguard, one driver, one agent.
And it's because it's a must.
And that's what Uhuru wants. And that's a very commendable thing. And that also explains, Linda, the pain that personally I have felt for a long time. You know, he's also my alma mater. So I've felt a lot of pain when I see like his misruling, when I see the incompetence, the theft and the wastage. I mean, look at even this headline this morning. How Jubilee had a 32 billion laptop project, you know, which flopped. And which even the media, which he said, gazeti ni ya kufunga nyama. The word they're using is how they lied, you know. So of course I can't feel proud about that. You know,
someone writes a message.
Sterling legacy.
Someone writes a message and says, "Hey, Benji's a big boy. He's an alma mater." And President Uhuru is no big joy.
Yes, and in fact, I sit on there.
Where
so
were you together?
You met,
Amherst or at St. Mary's?
No, at St. Mary's. And you know St. Mary's is, you know, St. Mary's is a very big deal. So again, it is my joy, it is my pride and joy
to see
you know, him shining and uplifting that, not making Kenyans poorer. That's my only issue with Uhuru, nothing else.
All right, Professor. This on large lenses or on a bigger perspective, the Obasanjos of today, the Kofi Annans, may his soul rest in eternal peace, and their contribution to, you know, posterity, that is for purposes of the continent and as well at the global stage. Do you suppose that President Uhuru Kenyatta then is taking the right direction and that this one he will hold positively? Because there are a fair share of complaints about the likes of Obasanjo, in as much as they are at the forefront in addressing some of these matters that affect the continent. Because we keep asking, how many years have we been talking about the world's youngest nation, that is South Sudan, in vain? How many peace talks have been conducted as to, you know, us getting that aspect of peace in Eritrea, Ethiopia, and all that in vain? Just how genuine are these leaders in addressing these matters?
I think Uhuru has a very good chance of doing good. He's very charming as a person.
Yeah.
And that in itself has a way of disarming opponents.
Yeah.
So I think part of the reason they were able to broker the settlement in Ethiopia was because of Uhuru's charm. Poor Obasanjo had been trying for some time. It didn't seem as if it was going somewhere. But Obasanjo, the former Nigerian leader, has done very well in being mandated by the AU and as an eminent personality to run around trying to promote peace.
Yeah.
And we know that peace does not exist in itself. It's a contrived reality.
Right.
So we've been trying to see whether he could contrive this peace in a very... And so Uhuru now goes into that. And his reputation is better than Obasanjo's was. You know? Because Obasanjo had a problem. In Nigeria, he promised Charles Taylor something.
Right.
And then he seemed to have gone against
that.
You know, that is still lingering, you know. So when he goes to negotiate things with, in a situation like Ethiopia, those people, both sides are wondering whether they can trust him because of what. So Uhuru does not have that baggage of now. So he can exploit that reality. He likes being seen as a Pan-Africanist. And that is very good for him.
That's a good thing.
It's a very good thing for him because then the warring factions will see him in a positive way, as somebody who has the interest of Africa. And therefore, they being Africans, they should maybe talk to him and listen to him. His mission right now in DRC, it's a two-pronged mission. There's the political angle, and he's in charge of the diplomatic persuasion. Yeah. And then we do have the East African Standby Force, the military angle, which General Keboshi and company are leading in that. But the two have to work together to reach the objective. So one is helping the other. Yeah. But it is Uhuru's job to see how they can convince everybody. Tshisekedi, the M23, and the other militia. Yeah. Because you cannot say you are settling things unless you talk to the main combatant. Right now, the main combatants are the government of Congo and mainly M23. M23, yeah. And those other militias like the ADF they are there. But the main antagonists or protagonists, they need to be approached and say, look, it's not making sense. So what is it that can be done for you to stop this? Yeah. And the possibility of the Congo moving forward is very high. And I think that's why I give Uhuru credit. Working to bring Congo into the East African community, right. And convince. Oh yeah, he did. Convincing Tshisekedi to think that he's an East African. Yes. Of course, he used to live. He struggles. And then convincing Kagame and Museveni and others to agree, and Samia, that yes, Congo should be part of this. Yeah. It was not easy. So that showed his skill. And I think the rest of Africa say, yeah, maybe he has something to do. And he started well. Of course, after brooding for a while because of losing twice. He lost his man. Lost. And his man lost as well. Yes. And then he lost the influence in the mountain. Those are the double losses. And so you're convinced at this point that truly he was genuine with pushing the right honorable Raila? Because you see, we're a little bit skeptical. That's a debatable issue. That is debatable. Yeah. Allow us to take a short break, Professor. Allow us to take a very short break and then we come back on that very matter.
Very debatable.
So this
well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga,
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga,
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga,
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga.
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m.
Honorable Kiruga Dhuku is with us this morning, as well as strategist, that is political strategist Benji Ndolo and Professor Macharia Munene. And that as to whether President Uhuru Kenyatta genuinely supported the Right Honorable Raila Odinga or not is debatable. I think that one we shelve it at that, yeah? Babu Owino is...
I'd rather not get into it. I know what I know.
And I think, he did genuinely support. He came to believe.
Yes.
In the beginning, there may have been some, but towards the end of it, you could see his heart was
so
out.
Genuine, yeah?
It was a personal issue now. It's no longer just a political thing. It was personal. And he went out of, he spent his resources, whatever they are, and but he was just going against the tide.
Yeah.
Yes. And the question
and he
was,
got tired.
Why
really?
did he do that? Yeah?
One of the most interesting public comments to me, because I watched the president campaign, I always try to follow everything, was mimi nimefanya kazi na huyu mzee, nataka mpigie huyu mzee.
Sikatai kijana, but
lakini kama mtaki, shauri yenyu.
You do not support someone and say that.
And in our area, in our area, people kept wondering. And in fact, those bold enough would say, that cake that president was given, could it have been raised in something that
in Mombasa?
Because you see, there was no way, especially in our area. You know, the president had come there with his deputy, the now President William. And people, they liked that combination so much. Now to hear the president saying otherwise, in fact, people just kept quiet, but they would tell you, right? We can
Nyeri is the ground zero of UDA.
Can never
go that way,
that direction, because we would be proving as people who can never
not be dependent upon you.
So people said, even to date,
and I predicted this early,
even to date,
loudly,
people still wonder, and they don't believe it was just okay. They say there was something that could have been done to the president to confuse him, because definitely to change from a person who literally almost made you the president to support another one who could always do it.
Wanted you jailed.
Yes. He had said to Uhuru and Ruto belong to jail. Now to start telling us ati huyu mzee tumefanya. Akisema hivyo now watu wanasema huyu mzee kwenda kabisa.
Well, Professor, back to you as we sum it up on this one as to whether he's doing a good job and we get to the Yala conversation.
Who is doing a good job? Uhuru or
Uhuru. Well, of course we have but who is doing a good job? Let's answer.
Uhuru is. Also give credit to Ruto for asking him to do it. It was very honorable. Ruto started badly. Like that inauguration day. And then what happened thereafter, the Sahara thing was a disaster.
Yes,
and a few other things. So people say, who is advising him?
Or the Republic,
On this
very quick
quickly he changed. And he started looking now. But when he offered Uhuru that position, and Uhuru accepted in public, because remember him there.
Yes.
That was acceptance. And it just took a little time to actualize the acceptance. And once he did, Uhuru has been doing a good job. And he has a very big future. not just in the continent, but everywhere.
Is it time that the Right Honorable Raila Odinga swings back to his envoy position, which he still holds, I think, yeah? And for us to get to see something ongoing?
It's time even to retire. It's time to retire. For 25 years, it's time to retire.
Professor.
In fact, he needs to work on endorsing someone. No, it's
Raila Odinga is a Kenyan.
Beyond
being,
yes.
And he has every right to seek positions. He will be a candidate in 2027.
Is it?
That's unfortunate.
Professor.
And he will be a candidate in 2032.
No. Okay.
So I mean, it is in his blood, his DNA. So don't be surprised if he's a candidate. And there is no provision that says he cannot be a candidate.
Yes, unless we now actualize this one that Fafi
even
member
if
of
he's
parliament
100 years
is talking about.
and he wants to, he should be allowed. Okay? To run, that does not mean that the people will accept him.
Okay.
He should visit province. Okay? So that means that that's why that proposal by that MP from I don't know where.
Fafi.
Yeah. Say that, let's change the constitution so that he was saying Ruto can continue. That implied that
and let's lock
and
out.
then say that so anyone who is 75 then should be locked out. The whole thing was stupid. You know, and I think that's why the president they came out and said, I want nothing to do with that. Okay? Don't tinker with the constitution, because give it a chance to work. And he opposed the BBI on that account, and he should be the last person to be seen to encourage mutilation of the constitution for some really awkward things. Of course, if one wants can go back to the 1980s, and where he was not very eager to have these things. But these are different times. I think Ruto is very conscious of his legacy. Very conscious of it. Uhuru used to talk about legacy. He's not talking about it, but he's conscious of it. So doing the right thing now that will build up and accumulate is something that is in his conscience and in the conscience of some people around him. Not everybody, but some people around him. And so when this person comes up with this ridiculous idea, then it needed for the president to step in and say, no way. Then people can have confidence that he's not tinkering with that. So both men, Uhuru is doing a good job, and I think he will continue doing a good job. Ruto is doing his best to do a good job. And he's done very well.
So far.
So far in diplomacy and international relations. He's done well. And on the domestic front, we still have a few issues. Like what Meshu was saying about the Mamau Road. And the prices, the cost of living, he still has to tackle. But internationally, the man has come out very well. And whatever Uhuru achieves, it is Ruto. Because the one who allowed him to do that. And when that is seen, when they work together like that, it is in Kenya's interest.
And so it positions us as a country as well.
Yeah, because Kenya is a pivotal country in Africa. And at present, the world is realigning, power realignment and geopolitical considerations here and there. And at least we know the big powers are doing it. And they are competing very roughly. Kenya is not a small power. And it has no business being panguard by others. It should be doing its own realignment, to see how it positions itself in world affairs, so that its voice is heard. And the old ways of big powers thinking that they can always tell African countries what to do, those are gone. So they try to say as who are you? Because it is not necessarily in the interest of the country to do what you are saying. So we say no, and we give reasons. So the country is in that position. I think Ruto is trying to figure where he stands and how he's perceived. He's unfortunate right now because he does not have his full team. And the PSs
are still facing the troubles,
although he still has a few PSs, those who are continuing. And they know their jobs. like Berio, in
Kipsang, yeah.
And like Gadesha, Amos Gadesha. There are a few people who are there, and I think they can be moved around. So your services are needed. It's just a transfer. Just go there, do this thing. But we wait the official one for the vetting. But those who are there, I think the speaker said, you who are there continue doing what?
What it is.
Holding the fort.
Yeah.
And what the president can do, if he needs somebody somewhere, rather than there, just
make the necessary.
Just the transfers,
yeah.
Because they are still, and he has power to do that. And then they can make sure that things go. So he has problems at the domestic level, but internationally, he's doing very well.
Right. Okay, fair enough. And time is moving very fast. I'll tell you that I have had the advantage of reporting on a few matters about Kennedy Kalonzo. We hosted him here the other time with, Elizabeth Mutuku, our very own. And even without Googling or even without listening to some of these things, I can tell you rightfully, or I can tell you with confidence that I also is really been trying to champion on matters of, youthful engagement or youth engagement as well as, approach or youthful.
He's not really a politician. I know him personally.
Yes, and a typical politician. Don't you think that Yala, he's not, you say he's not? He's not a politician. And Yala requires a politician. You think so?
This is leadership.
This is leadership.
It's politics.
This is not just holding a position because of your last name. This is about delivery of agenda. This is about.
Would it be fair to try Winnie in this case?
I just think all of those things are wrong-headed. And by the way, this demonstrates, and these are people I've worked with in the past, how these top two political leaders, how they lost to younger men while they were themselves in government. Because when Jubilee came in, Winnie's dad was prime minister, Kennedy's dad was vice president. Ruto was Eldoret North MP, pretty young man. And the former president was Gatundu South MP, and then actually out of cabinet because of the ICC cases. There's such a huge, drastic rift between the so-called digital and analog. I mean, to just nominate your kids in that kind of fashion when you have people that have sacrificed their careers to get you going, the Kanini Kegas of this world, and I'm not holding brief for anyone. And out of all these people, I think Raila initially had nominated his elder brother, then now his daughter. We must speak against some things and hold yourself to the same standard. Because we're trying to build, this is still a young country, we're trying to build a political culture. It's not enough to just say, she speaks well, she's smart, she's educated. What else could she be? She's the son, her grandfather was Kenya's first vice president. So do you think she went to a city council school in Karachuonyo? Of course she speaks pretty well. But there are lots of deserving cases and lots that need to be done to jostle for the position of Kenya and Kenya's interest in the region. So for these top leaders to be nominating their kids that way, it's a slap in the face, even to the constituencies that they come from.
You're not about to feed the neighbor when your very own home is starving.
But how are you starving when you are a billionaire whose constituency, if you look at a place like Mwingi, no, it's just completely wrong. No, if you look at even where these guys stem from, both Kibra, which is a slum, and Mwingi, which even yesterday I've seen the discussion on the Enziu River where people died just the other day when the rains were there. Yes. And the bridge has still not come up. And rather than Mheshimiwa Kalonzo pushing Charity Ngilu very hard to get things moving, what was Charity Ngilu doing? Tweeting all the time, abusing the then deputy president, praying in public that God remove him. Come on, Linda. We must be very credible and genuine as leaders. I hate nobody, but this is such a poor show. It is such a poor show. Compared to the Kenya Kwanza side, where somebody like Fred Muteti, former SG URP, this is just, a very bright chap, son of a nobody, someone who nobody really knows, and who has a chance to become something and to push on. He used to be a former PA of His Excellency Kalonzo, by the way. Yeah. And such, just very diametrically. In fact, if I could quote the president on yesterday, I think it's in The Nation. he views the nomination by Azimio as a blunder. The president himself.
They're saying Ruto sets trap for Raila and Kalonzo.
Yeah, and if you could just quote him, he just feels it's such a. Allow me. This paper, and sometimes he's really kind of just a political genius.
And as he gets that,
he was just like, what are these Wangwana?
I don't understand the wisdom of a person nominating his son or daughter for a seat.
Exactly, there is a quote. I do not understand the wisdom of a person nominating his son or daughter for a seat like that on a regional parliament. That is the president's quote yesterday.
I mean, if
you can see how differently
they're Kenyans, these are noble Kenyans, perhaps if they're credible, what would be wrong with nominating one
especially second
And
term.
when the nation speaks of, this is more or less like a trap, is it because then he has picked Hassan Omar, Zipporah Kering, David Ole Sankok, Fred Muteti, Iman as well, and these ones would really have a plus in relation to now this one that appears to be more of nepotism?
Those are, there were actually elections in Kenya Kwanza. Those nominees were not picked by the president. It is our MPs who picked them. And that is why you see we have some disquiet because most of our people think a friend of mine, a very young man called Karobia, who really sacrificed during the elections. But you see now the president subjected all our candidates to the MPs. Vote. Give us the nominees. But you see now our friends in the opposition, the principals themselves. They are the ones who have been telling us about nepotism, or there is nepotism in government. So we are using their own words against them. I mean, you cannot be preaching to us here on a daily basis. Then when an opening comes, you bring your daughter. An opening comes, you bring your son.
It's terrible. After your
even
brother.
In my office, I'm just a mere MCA.
It's nepotism.
I can't employ my brother in my office.
How?
You see?
It's nepotism.
You see? So, yeah, when there is that opening, I have given that opportunity to other people. You see? From other areas in my ward. I have this stuff in my office.
Yeah.
So these guys are sending a terrible message. And the president was spot on that in such an instance, we are not looking for people to represent your family. We are looking for people to represent Kenyans. And Benji is very right.
Allow us to take a short break, Mheshimiwa, and then come back with that very
those guys, except for the fact that this is Kalonzo's son.
What else?
Odinga's daughter. There is nothing outstanding they have done in this country.
Totally.
One of those positions.
Totally.
I do not know whether Professor agrees to that. Allow us to take a quick short break. And then come